Hi, how are you doing? Okay, great. I'm Dr. Vishal Gabale. I've done DNB in medicine. I work in Mumbai. Now, I'm educator. Many say I'm an influencer, which I don't like much. But because as an educator, we have different ways to communicate with the people. Now, there are several reasons why I started my Instagram journey, which we will discuss through the course. Okay, now, tomorrow, when you go ahead, I want you to ask the four things to you that what is my S.K.Y.C? Okay, S is for the spark, K is for your kick, then Y is for your why, and last C is for your how to get that into the reality. Okay, S.K.Y.C. Now let's start with the spark. So it comes to a funny story. Basically, when I was a kid, you might like just presume that as a doctor, I'm a speaker. Maybe he must be very, sincere or kind of a person who was always studious. But I was not in that case. Okay. So there were several things. First of all, nobody in the house was that educated, and we didn't have that much seriousness of the education. So I used to always play some sports, mongering with the friends, moving here and there, going out and all. And the famous day in the school that happens with everybody, right? With all of you must have happened that somebody asked, the teachers ask you, like, what do you want to be? I was like, sir, I will be cancer surgeon, sir. Not because just ma'am came, but I really wanted to be back then. Then everybody in the class started laughing. Oh, this guy, how can he become cancer surgeon? If he becomes cancer surgeon, then I'll become prime minister. But the next thing, that was a spark that kept me running. And that was the fire that kept me running. I got a little smothered with the people laughing at me, but back of the mind, I knew that I have to work in that way to be a doctor. Now, how universe basically try to, diminish that spark is with several things will happen to you. But how you keep the spark alive is really, really important. So when I was a kid, basically, my mother used to run a mess, and we didn't have good financial status, as I said. So I used to deliver some tiffins and all to most of the places, And sometimes as a kid, what used to happen, like somebody, if the person is not at the home or something like that, we used to eat that. My mom really didn't know about that till then, okay? Then similar to that, just like this, we had a small shop. I used to work in the shop. And, there were a lot of distraction. Obviously, when you want to achieve something, that spark is always there, but universe always tests you at each moment. So with this, I just want to tell you that spark should be alive. So I would just tell you an event, like what was my first income in those days. So there was a political rally or, the promotions before elections. So those were there. Now, my father was really against kids earning money. And I was that kind of kid who likes PlayStation. Those days, there was a PlayStation, if you guys know. Just in 10, 20 rupees, we used to go to the PlayStation or internet cafe, just to play some games, GTA, Vice City and all. You guys know that. So I used to go there, and just for all of this, as I said, I was so mischievous. Now you can imagine like why others laughed at me when I said I want to be onco-surgeon. So I then got into that political rally, got some money, and that was just like 100 rupees amount what I got. So back then in 2008 and 9, the 100 rupees was like good sum. With that, I could directly play 2 hours at PlayStation, got 2 kurkures and 1 small Coke also. But the thing is, my father came into that internet cafe on the very day, and he really got the spark out of my left and right cheeks. So that day I knew that where the distraction is going. Earning money is a secondary aspect. When you really want to achieve something, this spark will only be alive if it really means hard to you. Okay? So after that, I started studying in 10th, as I wanted to prove my spark that yes, I'm going to do something in my life. I studied really well in last 2 months, and I now thought that like let's read some good books. But obviously the time was late, so I had gone through some guidebooks. Then at that last point, I got like around 92%. Everybody was shocked. There was one teacher who had called my mother back then, into the school, as obviously as I was mischievous, as I said, that this guy, I think, is not going to do anything in my life. Okay, in his entire life, he's not going to do. I can just vow for that. I can write it down, or if he does anything, I will just shave my head. Now, when I looked at him, he is already bald. So there is no issue about that. But this kind of things will always push you, push you, push you, push you. But it's up to your heart that what keeps your spark alive. All right. Now, with this spark, the next step in my journey was the kick. Now, this kick is not something which I get a lot of times from, I used to get a lot of times from my father just for doing some mischievous activities. This kick is something which will keep you running through that idea, okay? Or kick to the action, that's what I say. So now I wanted to be a doctor, as I mentioned. Now, the funny part, I was just after the results got declared, I just went, I had 92%. That was the only time I got 92%. After that, I got into 12th and then MBBS. You know what happens in MBBS, right? Then, after the results got declared, I was at my hometown. That's like around 200 kilometers from my city of accommodation where I used to live. So that's Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, that's in Maharashtra. And from there, 200 kilometers, we had a place. So at that place, we didn't have any communications and all. Results got declared. They called me like, Vishal, you got 92%. Everybody in the village was really happy, celebrating and all. And next thing he says, now what? Now where do we go? As you know, there is a lot of competition in 11th, 12th NEET examination, right? In our time, 2013, I gave the NEET. That was the first NEET. Everybody was shocked now, what to study, what, we don't know anything and all. And there is a coaching classes culture in where I used to live. So for that coaching classes, we have a scholarship exam, okay? So that scholarship exam was just a scholarship interviews, basically. That was just the next day after the 10th results. Now I'm at my hometown, chilling, eating mangoes and all. Phone call comes from my friend that, Vishal, tomorrow is the interview. How are you going to do it? How are you going to attend it? Because if you don't go to that coaching institute, you're not going to get into MBBS. Now that was when I started kicking everything around me. That, oh my God, now what I will read? I don't even remember the kingdom, phylum, plantes, zoology, anatomy, whatever we say. How can I deal with this then? Whatever resources I had, I thought, okay, I was smart enough. So I wrote down, I'd taken somebody's book from the village. I just wrote down everything, all the phylums and all species, genus, whatever we say. I just wrote it down, the biology and botany, and zoology. I got the cheats with me, and I said, okay, I'll go in the bus tonight, and there was only one bus with the 40 seats, and we will just read that. Little did I know, in that 40-seat bus, there will be mostly 100 people were there. Okay, so I was completely sitting like this in the bus. Okay, there's no space to move around here and there. And again, as you can imagine, universe tests you basically at all the points. That bus got broke down in between the middle of the way. Okay, and at that point, I thought, now this is over. There is no meaning of this spark. I'm not going to get into this coaching institute, and I'm not going to get this interview. So this 200-kilometer distance was actually 12 hours, 12 to 13 hours for me. Next day happens, I go into my town, interview at 12 p.m. I just reached at the interview venue at around 11:45. I have no time to look around, my interviews at 12, and I am all hungry, you guys know, right? And we have what? Chits. I just opened my chits now, what to read, what not to read. I was absolutely baffled that exactly, I didn't imagine these things can happen to anybody. Now, I was hungry, as I said, but meanwhile, I can see the students are discussing. Somebody is discussing. They asked me, what is cell, definition of cell. He asked me about the organic chemistry. He asked me about the physics. Somebody says, he asked me about the osteoblast. I said, what blast? This is blast for me. Again, somebody in the corner was discussing few things like, oh God, he asked me, why do you want to be doctor? Now, that was the difficult question, right? Everybody wants to be doctor at those days just because there was nothing else to do, either an engineer or doctor, and we all are very, very bad at maths. So being a doctor is the only choice we had. And we have to really fake in the interviews, as you guys know, which you already fake in your MBBS interviews as well, this oral viva exams. So I said, Okay, I've prepared my answer. I go to the interview, and interviewers, okay, we are taking lunch break, now you wait for 15 minutes. I said, oh my God, what is this kind of test? God, why me? Then in that 15 minutes, I had a chits with me, no time to read. Obviously, I couldn't focus on anything, right? I just I just drawn an image of myself with a cloud like a comic, and put a question mark, like why me? Next thing, I just put those into my documents because just quickly interview comes and he just calls me, okay, come in. Then I go into the interview, hello sir. He says, okay, that's all right. I just saw that you got 92%. Why your percentage were like 60, 17, 7th, 8th, and 9th? I said, sir, because I used to work a lot. I'm a hard worker. Then they said, okay, where you worked? I explained the stuff to them, and around in 10th again, he saw the percentage and said, okay, now tell me, we already know that your background is like this. Why you want to be doctor? I said, sir, I want to save people, sir. I want to save people. They said, beta, more than 500 students before you just told the same answer. Why we should select you? Honestly saying that, at that point, I had no kick, no answer for this. Like, why I should be a doctor? Actually, like, yes, honestly, it was to save someone, but I was honest enough to tell the teachers that, sir, I just need 2 days. I want to be doctor. I definitely want to save people, but I just want to find that firm cause, a firm why that will turn into action. That's the gravity. Okay? So for that, you should know what is your why or your gravity. What does gravity does? So Einstein says there is no gravity as such, right? It's just a bending of the space-time curvature because of the mass, right? Now, with this, a very, very important concept for all of us is we should know what is our gravity. And if you know your gravity, okay, if you know it your why, then you don't have to worry about when. Because if you are dedicated to that particular thing, that yes, I want to be doctor, and I will just find out why. Next 2 days spent, I didn't found any cause. I just told the interviewer that, sir, I really don't know. They said, anyways, we have selected you because we found you honest enough. And next thing happens, in the 11th, I go around all the young, brilliant minds around the city, just so sharp, raising their hands for all the questions. And I was absolutely clueless with the physics and all those formulas. And sadly, at that point, just to get into the gravity pulled me down again. At that point, I had a small accident, and that was not actually very small, but I was not wearing helmet, so that's a really bad thing to say. But at that time, I didn't know. So I fell down. I had my right temporal bone fracture, and I was in ICU for around 6-7 days. After that period, like after going into the ICU and coming back from that, I could hear people discuss, like, oh my God, he wants to be doctor, like, will he get better? Will he come out of this coma? How can he recover now? What is the thing happening? And actually, I was not listening to it. My parents told me that everybody was thinking that how you can come back from this big disaster. Soon enough, I got into the consciousness gradually. And at that point, if you know that through the temporal bone, we have the facial nerve course, right? So the facial nerve got damaged, element palsy, and I got Bell's palsy. Now, little did I know at that point that Bell's palsy, what is Bell's palsy or something like that. So now my journey starts to be an excellent doctor. I just opened Google. Okay, Bell's palsy is something which affects the lower motor nerve, and sometimes it can get better, and sometimes it doesn't get better. But as I said, I had a gravity. I wanted to get better. I wanted to be that doctor. I was just looking for one comfortable voice that gives me, okay, beta, you will get better. Don't worry about that. But nobody around me was, talking to me because I was maybe a small child for them. But somebody came and just said, Vishal, don't worry. I know you want to be doctor. This is just Bell's palsy. I was thinking I have a very fancy disease or something like that, just to, boast whenever I give TEDx in Bangalore. But that was just Bell's palsy. He told me, don't worry, you just need 40 to 50 days. Take good amount of steroids, you will get better. And they actually prescribed me some things and all, with the facial exercise and all, it got better. Now this is how the gravity now culminated. I knew that I have to give comfort to someone when someone is in that situation. And that's why I want to be doctor. Fast forward in COVID era. basically, we had seen a heavy COVID deaths toll in that period. My batch was COVID batch. I got into medicine residency during the COVID. And I could see those things happening in front of me. You know, beds are occupied. Only time the bed is getting emptied because somebody is getting succumbed. So that was an absolutely shocker, traumatic event for me. And somebody, one of my patients said me, sir, will I get better? Actually, my son is just getting married and I really want to meet him. And at that point, you know, as a doctor, as a junior doctor, the only thing I can say is, sir, we are doing our best, sir, you'll get better. The best part is, now I had that gravity in me, that's what kept me pushing, and that's why I selected this stream, and that's why I'm doing this. So I just want to highlight that you should know the gravity of your idea, and you should back that idea. Coming to now, last, that is, C, crash into reality. So whenever you go into the reality, as I said, so out of those 20,000 ideas you get every day, okay, only 6% ideas can get into reality. And what is the best thing to get those ideas into reality is by the crash formula, what I say. Okay, so number 1, C. C is to commit to deadline. Whenever you're having any ideas, either it's when you're sleeping or whatever it is, you just have to act it as soon as possible. Okay, so that's what I say, reduce the ridiculous. That means if you feel that this idea is really ridiculous, I should not do this and all. But you have to reduce it. You have to do it in action. Okay, for example, if I wanted to open a Doctors for All Foundation on those days, basically for the students, doctors who are doing suicide or mentally disturbed, even for the general public or underprivileged people. So within next few hours, I would say, in 4 or 5 hours, I launched it on the paper, Doctors for All, and today, successfully, we have helped more than 100 students to avoid suicide, which is a really dangerous thing to have somebody, right? So that was to reduce the ridiculous. A is for the ask for the help. Whenever you have idea and you think that can get into reality, never ever feel that this idea is too small or this idea is too naive. And should I ask it to somebody, or should I ask, or will they help, or will they laugh? So no, you have to ask for the help. Then S is ship imperfectly. That means however your idea is, however your idea fragmented it is, you have to turn it into an activity, and gradually over a period of time, you will work around it and make it better. Because no castle was built in just like 10, 15 days, right? It takes over a period of 10 years to be the perfect castle. Then last is hold yourself accountable. Now this is the most important part. Whatever your idea is, whatever your team does, whatever you want to do in life, either you are succeeding or you're failing, the only thing that will keep you going ahead is to hold yourself accountable. That means this is my thing. And if I really want to achieve something, I am the accountable person for this. So I hope with this, you understand the S.K.Y.C formula. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Vishal.